Yeah, hi, let's take a look at humanity. How human is your sales process? That's really where I'm coming from here. How human is your sales process? Now, the big problem we've got here is that we're aware, of course, that internet, robotics, artificial intelligence all taking over. Have you ever met anybody famous? Is the question to ask you here. Have you met anybody famous? Sure you have. The very first person I met who was famous is when I was about 12. I was doing a paper round and I delivered some papers to a guy called Bernard Cribbins. Now, I don't know if you remember Bernard Cribbins. He was an actor from the 60s and 70s, and he did a number of films, a number of comedy sketches and things. Excuse me. He was very famous for his film on the Daleks. Now, I remember the first movie about the Daleks. It was done in 1963, I think it was, when I was born, black and white, and it was very scary. You had these mechanical, like, post boxes or phone boxes with big arms, and they were robotic. I think they were humanoid inside, but they were robotic. They were mean. They kill people, exterminate, and they scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. I always remember that way, and that's the point, you see, because when you're talking about computers, artificial intelligence, robo-advisors, it's all a bit inhuman. It's all a bit robotic. It's all a bit sort of mechanical. And we need to think about that, because the only way we as humans can do better than AI is to become more human. So that's really what I'm talking about here. So I've got a couple of ideas for you to help you to become maybe more human in your sales process. First of all, on emails, do you just like template your emails, or do you make your emails personal? So that's the first one to think about. Now, a lot of people put, emojis and smileys in emails. That's nice. But do you say quirky things in your emails, which is definitely what would come from a human? Or do you just go through the usual templated paragraphs, which automated intelligence, artificial intelligence will do anyway? So that's something to think about. Make sure your emails come across as personal. If you're doing presentations and things like that, or you're doing webinars, try and be careful with the old webinar software that people still use a lot, where you have a PowerPoint and you're basically droning on behind the scenes when PowerPoint's doing its thing. Be careful of that, because that's dull as dishwater, really. So think about doing your webinar, but having a Skype picture, having people's images in the webinar as well. Use Skype, use Google Hangouts, whatever it is you want to use. Use Zoom, which does great video-based Skype for Business. All these things are much more human than a boring old webinar with slides in the background. So they can see you, use the whiteboard. Pretty much what I'm doing here now makes a huge, big difference along the way. Being human is really important as well. When meeting with people for the first time, in a meeting with a client or business client, whatever it is, make sure that you build that rapport quickly. Make sure that you focus on trust. Make sure you get to know them as a person. Building rapport is really important. Make sure that you become human. You find out about them. Okay, some people don't want to talk about that. I get that. But most people, if it's human to human, they want that human touch, that human bit of emotion coming through. Makes all the difference for people as well. There's no example. When you're doing presentations, be careful that you're not overdoing the use of PowerPoint. We know that, we've heard that before. You're presenting to a group of people, up goes the PowerPoint deck. I see it on LinkedIn. People are proud, they post on LinkedIn, yes, just about to start my presentation to a bunch of mortgage brokers here in the Southwest. And they take a photograph of them at the front, very proud. And right behind there's an enormous PowerPoint screen, and they're going to PowerPoint it. They've got a PowerPoint slide on there with their company logo and their name on it, and I think, uh-oh, it's death by PowerPoint coming your way. Now, you don't need to do that, you really don't. You can tell a series of stories to illustrate your concepts, much more human. Stories are really cool things. People engage with stories. Tell them the characters in the story. Tell them the obstacle that needs to be overcome, the phrase that pays. You can learn about storytelling in business. Sub 1 minute stories, not big long ones, but you don't have to kill people with PowerPoint when presenting. People know that, but I think essentially people are quite lazy. They think the only way to present to a bunch of business people is to flood a PowerPoint with lots of words and images and pictures, but people don't like that. They want the human thing. So start thinking about some stories as well. We talked about rapport, that's great, but think about perceptual positions. We call it in NLP the 3 positions. when you're dealing with people, make sure that you build the rapport, build the trust. But there's 3 positions to think about when handling a client. The first position is number 1, and that's your ego. The thing is, get out of your own ego. That's you, number 1. That's your point of view. That's your position. That's how you see things. That's what I call the ego. Get out of your ego and step into their body, which is them. So question number 2 is them, the customer. Find out about what they're all about. Step into their shoes. You know how it works. And then number 3 is both. See if you can come out and see both point of views. So before or during the meeting, try and do a little bit of perceptual positions. Makes all the big difference to how you build that connection with people as well. And I think that's really, really important as well. The last one for you to be more human is listening. Let's keep this over here as well. Listening. Now, the problem with listening is that most of us do it, but do it very badly. There's 3 levels of listening, as you know, level 1, 2, and 3, a bit like a target. Level 1 is internal listening. That's you when you're listening for your own purposes. That's you worrying about what's going on. You're just listening for your own sakes. Level 2 is what we call focus. It's focus on the customer. And that's great. And we're taught active listening techniques, nodding away, listening to the customer, summarising what they're telling you. But the problem there is that most people aren't really listening still. They're still thinking about their next question. They're still thinking about the solution. The client's giving you problems, so you're working out a solution in your head. You're thinking about what's coming up for the next meeting, what you're having for your tea, are you running late? You're doing so much thinking, you're not actually listening. So level 3 is what we call global. That's when you stop thinking about what the customer's actually telling you. You're hearing them and listening to them, of course you are, but you're not working out solutions in your head or thinking about your next question. That's true listening. If you can do that, build rapport, get out of your ego as well, start to look at more human aspects, you will become more human. And that's the big key difference to us. Moving forward, that's the difference. If we want to get our business model working amongst artificial intelligence, robo-advisors, we've got to become more human, and that's the message. And those Daleks that were on the TV program, they're awful things, weren't they? Well, they used to go, exterminate, exterminate, and they used to frighten me. They were awful things. And the trials and tribulations of a young little kid. But Bernard Cribbins was a cool dude. And he tipped well at Christmas as well. He gave me a tenner for Christmas. I used to make a lot of money on my paper around 1978, when I did that when I was 12, long time ago. Times have moved on now, of course. Newspapers don't have anymore, do they? So how human is your sales process? How much been useful for you? We'll speak to you soon.